I'll walk you through the different steps on how to add a CSV file like this into a Hoyly workspace that creates your tasks and really builds out the whole sequencing of your plan. So I'll show you the file as a starting point. You can see this particular file. This is my CSV file that has task ID, my title, description, trade, my areas, start date, end date. I might even have my crew size, WBS code, and even predecessor and successor. So all this information can be easily pulled into my file here. So I'll move this out of the way. Now, as a starting point, I do need to set up my swim lanes. So right now I just have swim lane 1, and I'll have to add a swim lane 2. So what I'll do is I'll start at the top. I'll go to settings. I'll go to swim lane settings, and I'll click on the edit option. And I can set the color if I'd like. I can call this area 1. And then this is the important part. You do need to make sure that your swim lane label matches the label that you have for your swim lane. So let me show you. If I bring this back over here, you can see my specific area says 1, and then I might have an area that says 2. So it needs to specify exactly what that says there. So for this example, I'll say area 1 is 1, and then my area 2, the color will be 2. Create. So that's all we needed to do in the initial prep work. Now what we're going to do is grab a file, right? Open up the file folder and take that file and just drag and drop it. And as soon as you do that, you'll notice this particular screen pops up, right? The import screen. And I have a couple of different options that I can go through here. One of the first options is the ability to skip weekends and holidays. So I do recommend turning this on. This would basically take a task that might have started on Friday and supposed to end on Monday. Instead of making that a 4-day task, this option will make it a 2-day task, right? Skip right over the weekends. Start Friday, skip weekend, and Monday. Next, we do have the option to automatically place tasks into the swim lane with matching label. So this is the part that we need to focus on, right? So based off of the label, that's how we're going to set up our swim lanes, and it's going to be our areas. So based off of label. Next, you do have an option to set the status for imported tasks, right? So most likely you want to keep it unplanned, but we do have some users that like to have it set immediately to planned or committed, so you can't move them around. Next, we do have the option to essentially map all these different fields, right? So you have to tell the software what each of these fields or headers represents from your CSV file. Let me move that out of the way. So we'll just go down the list here, right? So import ID equals task ID, title to title, trade to trade. I could also add a description here if I wanted to, right? I have that information. I do have people, so that would be my crew size. Start date, we'll say start date. Due date, that will be my end date. And then I don't need duration, but I do have upstream and downstream connections. So that's going to be my predecessors and successors. And then last but not least, right, I do have that label option, right? So I want to specify my labels to areas. And then if I wanted to, I could add additional labels as needed, but we'll skip over that for now. Now, as soon as I finish this, we'll click Save Mapping. And just like that, all this information has been brought in, right? Just like we had it on this file. So now what I could do is utilize these filters and filter the data even more, or I can just select it all. And you'll notice I immediately get this option that says Extend Plan. So if I click on that option, you'll notice it will extend out my plan or timeline here. And the reason it does that is because my start and end dates, you can see that they're in January and February. So that's just based off of the dates that you have in here. So next, what I can do is I can actually click the button for Place on Plan, which would take the tasks and place them on the exact dates that they have here. Now you'll see there is another option if you'd like to just click Import. It's not as fun, but it would just drop all the tasks into this specific blank area, right? And then you could take the tasks and either move them around or make adjustments and reorganize them as needed. But we're not going to do that. We're going to undo. We're going to send these back to our task import. And you'll notice if you do minimize it, right, you can easily open that back up as needed. So let's come back down here. So again, I'm going to select all, right? We already extended the plan, so we don't have to do that. And you can see an option that says place on plan. Now, be aware, if you do have over 100 tasks, it does only allow you to do 100 at a time. So you would do 100, right? It would minimize, and then you can open that back up, do the other 100. But for me, right, I just have 16 tasks, so I can click place on plan, and in a moment, all of those tasks will officially be added to our timeline here. So, and they are in the correct areas. So there's no more additional steps with having to move those around. You will also notice that when we open these up, that there is some overlap. So my main recommendation is to jump in here and adjust the area, click the menu, and then clean up. And you can see that that will clean up your swim lane, right? So that does fix the entire swim lane. You can also see that we have our dependencies in here. So all that information was brought over. Now, you would also want to do it in any other areas or floors or zones that you have in here. So I would want to go in here and click remove overlaps as well. Now, once you've done that, you can take this information, you can make adjustments, move this information around, and then even export it if you wanted to. Right? So we do have that exporting option to take all this information and export it back into a file.